snow fell like ash from a burning sky, swallowing the tracks of the boy who had no home. His breath came shallow, ragged, like a wounded animal crawling toward the last flicker of hope. The mountains loomed silent above him, cold, indifferent gods of granite and wind. Hunger gnawed his bones, and the blanket around his shoulders was more holes than claw. Then, through the storm's veil, he saw him, a figure crumpled beside a rock, half buried in snow. The boy hesitated, fear trembling in his throat, but something in that stillness called to him. He knelt, brushed ice from the old man's face, and felt the faintest pulse beneath skin cold as stone. The night deepened. The wind howled, and the boy, shivering and weak, wrapped his only blanket around the dying stranger, whispering to the darkness, "We'll make it till morning. We have to." When Eli awoke, the world was silent. The snow had stopped, the fire gone cold. The elder's body was warm beneath the blanket, but the man was gone. Only footprints led away, winding up the ridge like ghost trails. Panic and wonder wrestled inside him. He rose, calling into the echoing hills, but the only answer was the creak of frozen pines. Then, movement. From the tree line above, figures appeared, painted faces, bows drawn, eyes fixed on him. His breath caught. The mountain had awakened. They surrounded him without sound, their shadows stretching across the snow. He lifted his hands, trembling, unable to speak. The warriors studied him like a creature out of place, neither threat nor kin. Then a whisper rose among them, "Takana's mark." The name fell like a stone through water. Eli's heart pounded as the oldest among them stepped forward, motioning to his blanket, then to the sky. He pointed toward the ridge and beckoned. The boy followed. They led him along a narrow trail through frozen forest. The air thinned, and the silence grew heavier, filled only by the crunch of boots and breath. Somewhere high above, the mountains groaned, echoing like distant drums. The path opened into a hidden valley, a circle of smoke rising from a cluster of lodges, firelight flickering beneath hides painted with stars. Eli stopped. The scent of burning cedar and meat reached him. For the first time in months, warmth touched his face. Inside the largest lodge, the air shimmered with heat and cedar smoke. Elders sat in silence, their eyes glinting like obsidian stones. Eli stood trembling, surrounded by faces that seemed carved from the mountain itself. Then the flap opened, and Takana stepped in, alive, wrapped in the same torn blanket. The room fell to whispers. He raised a hand, frail yet steady, and spoke in a low voice that carried through the hush. The boy gave warmth to the dying. The mountains have chosen him. Eli's heart struck like thunder. For days, Eli lay beneath woven furs, drifting in and out of fever. Dreams of fire and snow tangled with voices he couldn't understand. Chants rising like wind through pine needles. Whispers of spirits watching. When he woke, Asha was there, tending the embers beside him, her eyes calm but cautious. She offered broth from a clay bowl, her words soft, measured, like the rhythm of rain. Though he couldn't grasp their meaning, he felt their mercy. Outside, laughter of children mingled with drums. Somewhere in that warmth, the boy who had been nothing began to remember what it meant to belong. When Eli stepped outside for the first time, the sun cut bright against snowdrifts, dazzling his eyes. Children watched from behind hides, whispering. Warriors mended bows, laughter blending with the scent of pine smoke. He felt the weight of every glance. Stranger, trespasser, omen. Then Takana appeared, leaning on a carved staff, his eyes filled with the calm of rivers. He spoke a few words, motioned for Eli to follow. Together they walked toward the ridge, where the air hummed with mountain breath. At the ridge's edge, Takana lifted his staff to the sky. He pointed across the valley, naming peaks and rivers in a voice deep as thunder, teaching the boy their true names. Eli listened, repeating the sounds clumsily, each word tasting like stone and snow. The elder smiled faintly, patient as the wind. He pressed a hand to Eli's chest, then to the earth, whispering something that felt more like prayer than speech. Eli didn't understand, but he felt it. The mountain was listening. That night, fires dotted the valley like fallen stars. The tribe gathered around them, faces half-lit, drums beating slow and deep. Eli sat beside Asha, who spoke of spirits that walked between dawn and dusk, those who carried the warmth of others' hearts. Her gaze found his, steady and knowing. He asked her haltingly what they called the man who gave his blanket to a dying soul. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "We call him alive." Later, when all had quieted, Chief Madua entered the lodge. He studied Eli long before speaking, his face unreadable in the flicker of firelight. "The boy walks where spirits lead," said Takana beside him. Madua's gaze shifted to the boy's trembling hands. "Then let the mountains judge him," he said. The words fell heavy. Asha's eyes flickered with worry. Eli didn't yet know what the chief meant, but the wind that howled outside told him it would not be gentle. The morning broke like hammered gold on the peaks, and the valley below shimmered with frost. Eli stood at the camp's edge, a bough in one hand, a bundle of dried meat in the other. His only provisions. Chief Madua's voice carried across the silence, steady as the wind. 3 nights. No fire, no shelter. The mountain will know you, or take you. Eli swallowed hard, eyes tracing the jagged ridges above. Asha stepped forward, pressing a strip of leather into his palm. A talisman carved with the mark of the hawk. "For when the dark speaks," she whispered. He nodded, not trusting his voice. The drums began to beat. The trial had begun. By nightfall, Eli had climbed far beyond the valley. The air was thin, his breath tearing in his throat. He found a hollow beneath an overhang and crouched there, knees drawn tight. The stars above burned fierce and cold, scattered like sparks across black ice. Hunger chewed at him, and the wind whispered words that sounded almost human. He remembered Asha's eyes, the warmth of her fire, the taste of broth. Then he looked to the mountains and muttered, "I won't die here." The whispering stopped. For a heartbeat, even the wind listened. The second day brought blinding light and silence. Eli wandered between spires of rock, dizzy from thirst. When he stumbled, the snow seemed to breathe beneath him, visions forming and fading like smoke. He saw his father's hands, calloused and trembling, saw the fire that had swallowed the mine, the screams that had driven him into the wilderness. He fell to his knees, sobbing, his tears freezing before they hit the ground. Then through the haze a shape appeared, a hawk circling high above, crying once, sharp and clear. He rose and followed its shadow. That night, a storm crawled over the mountains. The wind screamed through the pines, snow slashing sideways in white fury. Eli pressed against a boulder for cover, wrapping his arms tight around himself. He could hear voices inside the storm. His mother calling, Takana whispering, the cry of the hawk echoing somewhere above it all. When lightning split the ridge, he glimpsed a figure standing on the slope. A tall silhouette of the elder, glowing faintly in the flash. "You have warmth," the wind seemed to say. "Now find fire." He reached out, and the vision vanished into snow. At dawn, the storm was gone. Eli lay half-buried in drifted snow, lips blue, body trembling. He opened his eyes to sunlight, breaking through cloud, gold pouring over white. Around him, hawk feathers lay scattered in the snow, though no bird could be seen. He pushed himself up, each movement agony, and began the long descent. When he reached the valley's edge at twilight, the tribe was waiting. Takana stepped forward, eyes shining with quiet pride. "The mountain has spoken," he said, and Eli, barely standing, smiled through cracked lips. "I heard her." The valley welcomed him with silence, broken only by the crackle of fires being kindled in reverence. No words were spoken as Eli stumbled into camp. Every face reflected both awe and disbelief. His trial had stripped him bare, carved him down to bone and will. Asha met him first, pressing her palm to his cheek, eyes shimmering with quiet tears. "You lived," she whispered. Behind her, Chief Madua and Takana exchanged a single look, the kind that speaks of prophecy fulfilled. The drums began again, low and steady, echoing the heartbeat of the land itself. They led him to the center of the camp, where a great fire roared within a ring of painted stones. The people gathered close, their breath turning to mist that shimmered in the flames. Takana began to chant, voice old and strong, words spilling like river water over stone. Asha stood behind Eli, draping a fur over his shoulders. "The mountain knows you," Takana intoned. "She gives you back to us as her son," the crowd murmured, the rhythm rising until even the fire seemed to pulse with their song. When the chanting ceased, Madua stepped forward, holding a carved crown of hawk feathers bound with sinew and turquoise. His gaze swept over the tribe before settling on the boy. "You entered the mountain as a ghost," he said. "You return as her voice." He placed the crown gently on Eli's head. The people bowed their heads. Even the wind seemed to pause. In that moment, Eli felt the warmth of the fire spread through his chest, not as heat, but as belonging. He was no longer the boy who fled hunger. He was something born of both worlds. As night deepened, music and laughter spilled through the valley. Drums, rattles, and the high call of flutes echoing off the peaks. The people danced around the fire, their shadows twisting like spirits freed from the earth. Eli sat among them, wrapped in the warmth of kinship, watching Asha dance beneath a storm of sparks. For the first time, he laughed. Not the hollow sound of survival, but something real, something alive. When her eyes found his through the glow, he felt the world still, as if the mountain itself smiled. Later, when the fires burned low and the stars brightened, Takana sat beside Eli on the cold earth. "You carry two songs now," the elder said. "One of men, one of spirits. Keep them both." Eli nodded, eyes tracing the distant peaks. Somewhere beyond them, he sensed a darkness still coming, a shadow not born of nature but of men. Yet for now, the valley breathed in peace. The snow glittered like 1,000 silent prayers, and above them the hawk's cry broke through the night, echoing across eternity. The wind changed first. It came from the south, carrying the smell of smoke and horses and something bitter. Gunpowder. The elders read it in the clouds. Even the birds had fled. Eli stood on the ridge with Asha, watching a line of riders crawl through the distant snow like black ants. "Men from below," she said softly. He knew their kind, the sound of spurs, the scent of fear wrapped in leather. Chief Madua ordered the signal fires lit. Takana whispered that the spirits were restless. The mountain's peace was ending, and the boy who had shared warmth with the dying would soon share the fire of battle. The camp erupted in motion. Women gathering children, warriors tightening bowstrings, elders chanting to the mountain spirits. Eli helped carry water and wood, his heart drumming faster than the war songs. He caught Asha's eye across the firelight, her expression steady but fierce. "They don't come to talk," she said. "Then we'll make them listen," he answered, though fear crept beneath his words. In the distance, thunder rolled. Not from the sky, but from the hooves of men who mistook conquest for justice. By dusk, the riders had reached the valley's edge. Marshal Thorne dismounted, his boots sinking into the snow, his eyes scanning the settlement like a vulture sizing bones. "We're claiming what's ours," he growled to his men. Behind him, rifles gleamed like cold lightning. From the tree line, Eli watched, breath shallow. He could hear their laughter, cruel and hollow, the language of men who believed nothing sacred existed in a world of gold. He felt the hawk talisman burn against his chest and realized the mountain's test was not yet over. When night fell, Madua gathered his council around the fire. "They will come for our land, our blood, our silence," he said. "We meet them at dawn." Eli stood beside him, his young face lit in flames dance. Fear replaced by a hard resolve. Takana's voice was low and grave. "Do not hate them. Hatred binds you to their hunger. Be the hawk, strike true, vanish swift." Asha placed a hand on Eli's shoulder. "You are one of us now." Outside, the drums began again. Slow, relentless, the pulse of a people preparing to defend their world. Before dawn, the valley held its breath. Mist hugged the snow as the Washu warriors took their places among the rocks and trees. Eli crouched beside Asha, gripping the bow she had given him. The silence stretched, thin and sharp as a drawn string. Then came the crack of a rifle, distant but clear, echoing off the cliffs. The battle had begun. He felt his heart split between two worlds, one of blood, one of spirit. And when he rose to draw his first arrow, the mountain wind carried a single whisper. "Son of the mountains, remember who you are." The first shots shattered the dawn. Smoke leapt from rifles. Echoes rolled through the mountains like thunder breaking the world apart. Arrows answered, slicing through mist. Eli felt the bowstring burn against his fingers, releasing with a whisper. A rider toppled from his horse, swallowed by snow. He didn't cheer, didn't flinch, just moved as Takana had taught, quiet as the hawk's shadow. Beside him, Asha fired, her face streaked with ash and frost. When the wind shifted, the scent of burning pine filled the air. The valley that had once sung of peace now screamed in fire and fear. The battle rolled downhill like an avalanche. Horses crashed through fallen trees. Warriors clashed with bayonets and blades. Eli ducked under a swinging rifle, lunged and drove his shoulder into a man's chest, sending him sprawling. He froze at the sight. His first kill staring back with glassy eyes. The snow beneath him turned crimson. For a heartbeat, the world stopped, silent except for the rasp of his breath. Then Asha's voice cut through. "Move!" He turned, dodging bullets that shattered bark beside his head. Death was everywhere, but so was purpose. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to remember mercy. From the ridge, Takana watched the battle's fury with unblinking eyes. When he saw Thorn's riders flank the tribe's rear, he rose, leaning on his staff. "Not yet your time," murmured Madua. But the elder only smiled. He walked into the open, snow swirling around him like ghost fire. Raising his staff high, he began to chant, low and powerful. The same song he'd once sung over Eli's fevered body. The wind shifted, wild and alive. Bullets screamed through it. One found him. He fell, still chanting, his voice fading into the storm. The mountain took him in silence. Eli ran to him through chaos, slipping, falling, crawling through smoke and snow. The elder lay still, his hand open, palm to the sky. Eli gripped it, pressing it to his chest, whispering words he didn't know he remembered. Asha reached him, kneeling beside, tears cutting clean lines down her soot-darkened face. "He gave himself for us," he said. "Then we can't let him fall in vain." Eli rose, rage tempered by sorrow, and lifted Takana's staff. When he raised it high, the warriors saw, and something ancient flared in their eyes. The tide began to turn. The mountain roared. The Washu surged forward, driven by the fire of grief. Arrows fell like rain. Gunfire cracked until the echoes bled into silence. Marshal Thorne's men scattered, their shadows swallowed by the storm. Eli stood atop the ridge, chest heaving, eyes searching through drifting smoke for the living. He found Asha beside the wounded, her hands crimson but steady. Madua's arm was bound, his voice raw yet strong. The valley lay quiet again, scarred but alive. Eli raised the staff one last time, whispering to the wind, "For you, old man." Morning crept over the mountains in silence. The snow, churned and stained from battle, began to glisten under soft gold light. Eli walked through the field, each step heavy, each breath slow. Around him, the tribe tended their wounded, whispering prayers for the fallen. Takana's staff rested against his shoulder, its wood still warm from the fire. He stopped where the elder had fallen, knelt and pressed his hand to the snow. "You said not to hate," he murmured. "I remember." The wind stirred, faint and kind, brushing his hair like a blessing. Somewhere above, a hawk cried once, then vanished into the light. At the edge of the valley, they built a pyre for the fallen. Flames rose against the pale sky, carrying smoke and prayer into the heavens. The tribe sang, a low, haunting harmony that swelled like wind through pine. Eli stood beside Asha, the warmth of the fire flickering in his eyes. He lifted Takana's staff toward the flames and spoke softly, voice breaking. "You gave me warmth. I'll carry it wherever I go." The flames hissed and swayed as if bowing in return. Asha's hand found his, and together they watched the spirits rise. Days passed. The valley healed slowly, scars softening beneath new snow. The tribe rebuilt their lodges, laughter returning like the first birds of spring. Eli helped raise hides, fetch water, hunt along the ridges. Yet his gaze often drifted to the horizon, to the trails that led down into the white unknown. Asha noticed, though she said nothing. One evening, she brought him a bundle: dried meat, a fur cloak, and a single hawk feather. "The mountain will always know your step," she said. He smiled, knowing she spoke both farewell and promise. At dawn, Eli stood at the valley's mouth, the world unfolding before him in waves of frost and fog. Chief Madua joined him, silent for a long time before speaking. "The mountain gave you back to us," he said. "Now give her your voice." Eli nodded. "I will." The chief's hand rested briefly on his shoulder, a gesture of farewell and faith. Then the boy turned toward the trail, Takana's staff in hand, Asha's feather bound to it. Behind him, the smoke of the village curled upward like a final prayer. As he walked into the mountains, snow began to fall again. Soft, endless, silent. The wind carried voices he once feared, now familiar as his own breath. He thought of Takana's words, of Asha's hands, of the warmth that had changed everything. Somewhere far behind, the hawk cried again, echoing off cliffs like a heartbeat. Eli didn't look back. He walked on, wrapped in the mountain's breath, a living bridge between spirit and man. And when the storm closed around him, only his footprints remained, two fading lines leading upward into eternity.